Hey there, I'm Dani. I've always loved sharing a good laugh, so today I'm going to share a funny story I haven't thought about in quite some time. I'll do my best to recount every detail. Recently, I stumbled upon the craziest thing. If you look online, there's all these videos about wedgies. They're getting way more attention than you'd think. I mean, it's just a prank, albeit a really cruel one. I guess maybe I can understand the interest. Wedgies aren't something you come across every day, at least not in my experience. I bet they're virtually extinct with all the anti-bullying and Me Too movements of today. Maybe people just want to know what wedgies are all about since they aren't relevant anymore. But the wedgies I've seen online look kinda staged, you know? Set up just to get some views. And it works. These videos are so popular. That's what I don't get. They aren't even real. That's why I thought I'd share a story from my own experience. This takes place in the 90s, back when things were a bit different. People handled their business with a more hands-on approach. It was a time when we settled our differences without involving the authorities, when a good-natured ribbing was just that, good-natured. So let me take you on a trip down memory lane and share the story of the only wedgie I've ever witnessed. It was the weekend before Halloween. My friends and I were all at a house party. You know, a rager where the music was blaring, everyone was drinking, and the costumes were on point. My absolute favorite movie at the time was Clueless. I mean, who could resist the charm of Cher Horowitz? I remember it was '95 because I saw it twice in theaters that year. So naturally, I decided to channel my inner Cher for the night. I put together the perfect costume. Picture this. I wore this plaid, yellow, and black miniskirt. On top, I sported the matching plaid blazer. But the piece that set it off was, of course, the white knee-high socks paired with some killer Mary Jane platform shoes. I even had a fake cell phone because what's Cher without her phone? Let's talk hair. I teased my blonde locks into a voluminous mane, and believe me, it was a work of art. And of course, a touch of glossy pink lip gloss to complete the look. I was practically the spitting image of Alicia Silverstone herself. Now, there was an obnoxious girl named Kristen at the party. She was dressed up like a nerd. I remember being annoyed because Kristen's costume was similar to mine, but on a far sluttier level. I know what you're thinking. How can a nerd costume be promiscuous? Sure, she was wearing those massive, taped-up glasses that screamed geek chic. A cute little bow tie adorned her collar. Just like any self-respecting nerd, she had her classic tighty-whitey underwear peeking out from the back of her skirt. And, oh boy, those undies had her name sharpied on the waistband. She had suspenders attached to her skirt, all the stereotypical nerdiness you'd expect. But here's where it got interesting. Kristen had on this teeny-tiny, 4-inch wide yellow plaid top that was smaller than a bra, and I'll tell you, it was leaving very little to the imagination. Matching that scandalous top, she had on a knee-high skirt. Those suspenders she wore? Well, they were on a mission to pull that skirt up to her boobs. Kristen spent the night constantly tugging her skirt down. The best part? Her kick me sign with the word kick crossed out and replaced by kiss. If that doesn't scream attention-seeking, I don't know what does. Let's just say Kristen's costume had everyone glaring. Now, I'm not one to judge a book by its cover, but just looking at her, I should have known Kristen might be trouble. At first, we couldn't resist encouraging her. My gal pals had a blast egging her on. We cheered as she downed shots. I remember one of my friends, Lisa, shouting, "Kristen, you're a rock star tonight," and then passing her a tube and funnel. Kristen drank it like a champ, and the whole room erupted in cheers. But then, things started taking a wild turn. Kristen, fueled by liquid courage, decided to pull off a keg stand. Let me tell you, with her legs up in the air, that skirt of hers was riding a bit too high, if you catch my drift. Her skirt certainly caught a drift, if you know what I mean. As the night wore on, Kristen's behavior became more erratic. She started hitting on everyone. Guys, girls, it didn't matter. She was getting handsy, groping people. Of course, some people had fun with it, but it was making a lot of people feel uncomfortable. We might have encouraged her, but we didn't anticipate this level of wildness. Here's where Kristen made her big mistake. My friend Natalie was at the party with her boyfriend Ryan. They were dressed up in power couple Batman and Catwoman costumes, looking absolutely adorable together. But Kristen, in her increasingly flirtatious state, decided it was a good idea to get way too close to Ryan. She started dancing with him, grinding and putting her hands all over him. It was getting wildly inappropriate. Natalie, who's usually all smiles and sweetness, confronted Kristen. She stepped in, and with a firm, polite tone, she told Kristen, "Hey, that's my boyfriend. Can you please stop?" But Kristen, instead of heeding the warning, responded with a flippant, Don't worry, honey, we can share. And with that, Kristen started grinding her backside against Natalie. At this point, I think it's worth noting that, while Natalie might look cute and friendly, she's got a black belt in Taekwondo and the strength to match. She wasn't about to tolerate Kristen's behavior any longer. That was the moment when Natalie decided it was wedgie time for this nerd. While Kristen was jokingly grinding her ass against Natalie, Natalie was not amused. Someone needed to put an end to this girl's amplified confidence before she went any further. Natalie grabbed the oversized waistband of Kristen's tighty-whities, which boldly displayed her name. In one seriously powerful pull, Natalie yanked those underwears up high. And I do mean high! The mood in the room shifted instantaneously. Natalie used Kristen's costume against her in an incredibly degrading way. Can you imagine having something you're so proud of being used as an instrument of pain on your most sensitive areas? Kristen, who was tipsy at best, stood up straight with a soft yelp. She stood on her tiptoes, stumbling and reaching frantically behind her, trying to locate her underwear and relieve the excruciating pain. Coordination wasn't her strong suit at this point. She was just waving her hands around, grasping at air. The entire room was now in complete silence. Someone had the sense to turn off the music. I had never witnessed a wedgie before in person, but comparing this to the ones I've seen on TV, this one looked like a wedgie to define the 1990s. I thought Kristen had enough at this point, especially given her state. But Natalie wasn't finished. She was determined to make this a wedgie for the history books. A wedgie that would be etched into Kristen's mind, and possibly her butt crack, for the remainder of her days. Oh, you wouldn't believe the drama in that room. Everyone staring. Natalie, resolute and unyielding, decided to give it another go. Natalie adjusted her grip, this time going for an underhand pull. I couldn't help but cringe and slightly turn away. And then it happened. I heard a loud burst of crackles as the elastic of Kristen's underwear stretched impossibly high. Those tighty-whities had reached up to the back of her tiny top. Kristen, in her helpless state, let out another involuntary yelp. She finally managed to get her hands on the leg bands of her underwear near her lower back. She was desperately trying to suppress the unrelenting wedgie. By this point, her entire skirt had ridden up for all to see, exposing a little heart tattoo on her butt cheek. I couldn't quite figure out if Natalie was attempting to pull those undies over Kristen's head, or if she had a desire to perform a full colonoscopy, but one thing was certain: she wasn't finished. With all her strength, Natalie gave one final, monumental pull. I'm convinced Kristen couldn't take it anymore because those tighty-whities certainly couldn't. With that, the sound of a colossal rip filled the room. There it was, a gigantic hole right in the center of those underwears. Kristen fell forward on her face with her butt in the air. It was hilarious. Natalie let go and Kristen quickly stumbled off, clutching her sorry butt and trying to make a hasty retreat to the bathroom. She was completely humiliated, even in the shameless condition she was in. Then, everyone who was annoyed by Kristen's earlier antics started cheering and praising Natalie. Soon enough, the entire room joined in. It was the craziest, most unforgettable wedgie any of us had ever witnessed. So, there you have it. The wedgie of '95. That's all the horror story I'll need this year. Just remembering that wedgie gives me nightmares. We all learned two very valuable lessons that day. Your underwear will rip in half before your butt crack does. And most importantly, never ever fuck with Natalie.